Welcome back. Here today in the Tier 10 British aircraft carrier Audacious. We're on the map North and the mode is Domination. Lucky enough to get pure Tier 10 matchmaking yet again, which is the best kind of matchmaking for these kinds of commentaries because this is the environment you can expect to face inside of a ranked or competitive setting. Sorry about that, just adjusting the volume on my music. We're against a midway. I'll start by launching my rocket planes. So 2 Shimikazes hunt, double Smolensk, booster Stalingrad, so pretty annoying cruisers, and then several significantly well-armored battleships, but also some that are more susceptible to our weapons packages. Anyway, starting out with the rocket squadrons on the Audacious, one of her better squadrons, quite frankly. So it's a 3x3 setup, unlike the 2x4 setup of the previous Implacable with her Seafires. These are of course the Westland Wyvern. You'll excuse me for the momentary pause. So similar to all British rockets before, this is a low penetration rocket, in this case 27mm of penetration, with low damage. However, the Westland Wyvern carries 14 rockets per aircraft. That's right, 14, which means she launches a whopping 42 rockets per payload. And as a result, this coupled with the good handling and good close-in firepower of the British planes, which allow her to hook in or lock in her attacks rather close to the target, mean that you can deliver some rather devastating firepower to lightly armored targets. Now with only 27mm of penetration, unlike the tiny Tims on the Midway, you lack the power. Note that 12 rocket strike, I did 13,000 damage to that Shimikaze over the course of those 2 strikes. They lack the penetration of the Midway's tiny Tims, as I was saying, sorry about the interruption. But in exchange, they offer some overwhelming saturation of the target area. Oh, my Moskva takes a big salvo there, probably from either Stalingrad or Republic. So there's a lonely Kremlin that I would otherwise attack as I pre-drop my first torpedo bomber squadron. It's still early in the game, people are bunched up. So all of the Audacious squadrons do make use of, oh sorry about that if you can hear that in the background, do make use of the very tough Westland Wyvern. You'll have to excuse the ringing in the background. Lost targeting information. Kind of hard to see the direction of the repub on minimap. Ooh. Gonna have to pop heal here just to make it through the flak. There we go. Now I see you. But anyway, that was the converging torpedo bomber. Sorry you didn't get a great look at it. 1 torpedo bomber does escape out, and we do get 2 hits and a flooding. So this is the British torpedo. It does just shy of 6,000 damage. It does 40 knots pre-torpedo acceleration. And it has the British converging pattern. So as you see here, if you let the reticle lock completely, you get a converging pattern, and it's a 3x3 setup. You'll note the very tanky full HP of the squadron, 26,000. For comparison, I believe the Hakuryu's full HP squadron with 12 aircraft is just about 20,000, although I will have to cross-check that once we get back to port. Now we did get a flood with the excellent British torpedo bomber. Now British torpedoes do have some of the higher flood chances out of the out of all the torpedo bombers of aircraft carriers in the game. So I do expect to get a fair number more floods, not getting a perfect drop there as he maneuvers away. But we'll drop it early, see if we can make it done, sacrificing 3 planes there to thicker AA, and proceed to try and follow up again, this time with the level bombers. Now the level bombers, again, Westland Wyvern, a bit less tanky. This is because I'm taking torpedo bomber HP module rather than dive bomb or carpet bomb HP module. So each bomb does 6,000 damage, has 41mm of penetration and 41% chance of causing fire, and 6 bombs per payload. As you can see, it's a 3x3 setup, which means you end up dropping 18 bombs. Now this is the upgraded bomber. You can also use the stock bomber, I believe it's the Fairy Firefly, if I'm not mistaken. Now I'm going after a thinly armored target here. The Repub is covered in 32mm of plate and is a battleship, so it's a fairly large target. So just gonna lead her here. Gonna pull my planes away from that cluster as I'm forced to watch that. Unfortunately, mostly straddles. I do set a fire though. So, oh, okay, looks like he does put it out. So I'm not gonna be able to reset a fire here because of the proximity, which I'm dropping again. Not a perfect drop, as you can see as I rake across the superstructure, but definitely annoying. I'll relaunch, and since he's separating from the GK, I should be able to finish him off with this follow-up strike as my planes come out. Now, as you saw there, even though you're dropping 18 bombs, the reticle is extremely large, unlike, say, the saturation bombers found on the Ark Royal, the premium. This is the standard British reticle. So it's very large, just about the size of a GK in fact, all things considered. I'm going to try and line it up a little better this time. He's maneuvering a little less, arming the drop out nice and far. You get 10 seconds. This time I'm going to get the full reticle tightening. And just as he starts entering the ends of it, I'm going to start dropping. So I get a full saturation there. You saw almost 10,000 damage there, and what should be a lethal fire. Lost one plane on the way out, and did find that Shimikaze that I crippled earlier. Now, with just 18 bombs, I'm going to try and lead him quite a bit. Notice the long delay in drop time. They're rather ineffective against light targets. Sorry about that frame lag. Follow up with my anti-light ship rockets here. See if we can finish off that Shimikaze. But yeah, you saw there that last cluster bomb strike against the unarmored Republic. You can inflict a lot of damage. However, with only 41mm of penetration, unlike the 60 or so, like I believe it's 57 on midway rockets, or midway dive bombs and midway rockets. So unlike the midway's very heavy munitions, you get a lot less power. Do inflict a pretty good strike there. He's smoking, however, so I'm going to try and memorize where he is. Bring my planes around. So the fact that I'm detected tells me that he's briefly still out of the smoke. I'm going to try and blind strike. Don't quite get there, but I get a more accurate read of his new position. And at 200 health here, I should be able to dispatch him. If my Shimikaze doesn't. Now, note that I was briefly spotted, so I'm going to alter my course a little bit before I relaunch. Now, we do have our work cut out for us. The team is even. We're up a destroyer kill, but we're down in overall points. Looking at the map, the enemy team controls C cap, I control no caps, and my DDs are alive, but not in particularly useful positions. There's a Smolensk in the last known position still over there, and a Stalingrad pushing into C cap, which is perfect. So torpedo bombers, let's see if we can... Stalingrad has pretty good AA, but the torpedo bombers are very durable. I have my heal up, and he is isolated. However, do note that with 50mm of plating, oh, I find the last GD2. Let me see if I can't F3. He's accelerating. I'll come back for him, now that I know he's there. I did drop some torpedoes around his location, although I don't anticipate that they're going to hit based on the not very tight reticle spread. At this point, the shimmy torps, if they were aimed at me, would have sailed well past me. I can tell based on his last known position which way he was headed, so I'm going to actually swoop up. So if he goes right beside this rock here, rockets won't actually be able to hit him. So I'm going to go above it first. See the orange puffs telling you that the Stalingrad does pop the defensive fire. I do hit a flak puff there. You can see the defensive fire flak puff does an enormous amount of damage. Gonna arm the drop. Oof. Unluckily, we don't quite find the Shimikaze. So I'm gonna ditch that, but note my tanky planes do survive First initial strikes, only have one plane left, but does still give me 14 rockets to try and hit him with. So hopefully he keeps on coming. It's going to be a very hard strike regardless. A little too high, as you can see. Still worth a follow-up attempt. Nevertheless, hitting the flak there did inconvenience us quite a bit. As you can see, we're still down 2 caps to 1, so we're in trouble for sure. Shimikaze's gonna run, but if he doesn't have smoke, he has no way to evade me. I am a carrier, I will find him. Gonna pop my engine cooling consumable just to make up some speed. And I do blind fire him because he's so low. So I'm gonna send this raking strike onto Stalingrad as I accelerate forward. Thank you very much. And I'm going to demonstrate how the heavily armored Stalingrad is relatively immune to rocket damage. So he's covered in 50mm plates of the Stalingrad, which means he's rather immune to much of my damage. 7,000 damage with 12 rockets, but do note I also got 12 shatters there. However, by targeting the superstructure, I was able to inflict some damage in spite of that. Not sure how I'm gonna get my carrier there, but we will see. Hit a flak puff, but we will pop a heal. I lose a gearing, which puts us at a precipitously low damage total, or point total, which means this game might be a bit difficult. Ooh, Stalingrad does manage to evade all 3, in spite of the converging pattern. Moving very slowly. Note my low reserves, 999, mean that the plane losses I have sustained over the course of the match are beginning to take their toll. Well, that was for under lead, kind of showing off the low speed of the British torpedo. Now Stalingrad fairly large, but still, as you can see, the reticle is also equally large, which leads to situations like this. Oh, my teammates continue to die. Running out of teammates to work with. In fact, the enemy Simolensk showing off that there are things that are potentially even more problematic than the power of aircraft carriers in this game right now, in the current implementation. Is he gonna cross the corner? I know perhaps there might be more important targets potentially to hit on the map, but his close proximity to me... Okay, I'm gonna ditch this even though I know it's gonna miss, because I don't have time to wait it out. But as I was saying, his close proximity means that I have the fastest sortie time versus this guy, so this is the easiest way for me to inflict damage in what might end up being a rather short match. I'm gonna have to apply what lead I can, but he's really close now, and due to the proximity, I'm gonna have to circle my level bombers out this way. I had to miss with my first Audacious strike. And he scores an air defense expert, having chewed up quite a few of my planes. He's beside me, but I don't think he's gonna shoot at me. Accelerate here to try and get a better lead, but note it's kind of easy to maneuver out of the reticle due to the, well, large size and long delay. Midway drops a fighter on top of me, but he's on top of an aircraft carrier's fighter aura. I should probably consider not going through that passage. Okay, my squadron may have been decimated, or they might have already just been dead. Not quite sure. Slamming the brakes here. gonna favor going after the Montana due to the Kremlin's armor. Somehow that Stalingrad is still alive. Well, I say somehow, but there's not really that many ships left in the match that can contest him. Gonna glide in behind this Montana as he takes a shot at me. Fortunately, my heavy deck armor does resist most of it. However, with that, the enemy does manage to kill off enough of my teammates to end the game. It was not much of a close one. Looks like my teammates got relatively slaughtered, just shy of 100,000 damage here. 3 torpedo strikes. I seem to be a little out of practice with the British torpedoes. You definitely should be hitting more. 40 bomb hits, 10 planes interdicted by hull, 7 incaps, 2 kills, 6 fires, 1 flood, 6 defender ribbons, 1 target hit, and 46 rocket strikes. Team score wise, unsurprisingly, I'm kind of up there, and then some people are alive and not doing very much apparently. But yeah, you can see from the composition of ships that the enemy was slaughtering my teammates. The Stalingrad did trim quite a few planes, so in spite of her not that great AA status, she does have decent AA. I hit a couple of flag puffs with the Stalingrad, so he did destroy a fair number of my planes. Now damage-wise, the majority of my damage came from the Republic, which I can actually damage with bombs, and the Shimakaze, which I did do a good job in pretty much devastating with the rockets. 27 rockets did 17,000 damage to him, which is just about 80% of his total health, so yeah, a lot of damage. But considering we got a pretty mediocre game, I'm gonna hit battle on. Hopefully there's someone else in the queue who wants to play with me, and we'll see if we can get to something slightly more impressive. And thankfully for this commentary, we do end up getting a nice queue up in short order without too much delay, so we'll get the follow-up commentary. So this one's not purebred matchmaking. We have 9s and 10s, but no 8s. And we're against an Hakuryu. And we have Montana, Thunderer, GK, Iowa, Alsace. So GK is the only really heavily armored one. Everyone else I can pen fully with my carpet bombers, which are particularly good against battleships and not as great against most other targets. You do drop 16 bombs, but as I said, with the size of the reticle, it's very hard to hit cruiser-sized targets, and you should kind of almost forget about hitting destroyers unless you're very lucky. Cruiser-wise, they have a Des Moines, Worcester, Neptune, Donskoy, so some respectable targets. The Donskoy being the weakest, followed by... hard to argue between the Des Moines and the Neptune. Des Moines has potentially access to defensive fire, but Neptune has better base AA and smoke. Meanwhile, Harugumo and Jutland are both fairly large GDs, which means the anti-destroyer rockets of the Audacious are extremely potent. On my side, I have Montana, Yamato, Georgia, FDG. So all of them can be citadeled by the Hakuryu, although the Montana is a bit tricky to citadel if you don't know what you're doing. And then all of these cruisers are also easy to citadel, so we'll see what he does with his time. Both of us starting with rockets. Find the Alsace with the Thunderer. Thunderer is a Conqueror hull that has access to defensive fire. I do find a Worcester as well, so I was considering attacking the thinly armored Worcester, but instead I guess we'll attack this Donskoy. Now Donskoy, tier 9 cruiser, mostly covered in 25mm plate. I do prompt someone to smoke immediately. Could be a Neptune, but more than likely is a destroyer. I do chunk the Donskoy out for 7,000 at the beginning of the match. Pretty weak AA coming from that smoke puff leads me to believe that it's probably the Jutland rather than the Harugumo. And the behavior... oh, only 5k this time. The behavior is also more suggestive of Jutland than Harugumo because Jutland has British smoke, which means she's much more easily able to expend smokes because of the short cooldown. Gonna move a little closer to the combat and also start to harass that Harugumo. Now I did launch the level bombers. I was considering going after the Donskoi, maybe trying to set a follow-up fire to the 17,000 damage we already inflicted to him. But that's fine. I'll do my job in cap defense. Donskoi pops a surveillance radar, so I don't have to do any guesswork. Very nice. Now, as I said, these are not particularly good anti-destroyer weapons. I am going to saturate this area, but I don't expect to hit him more than once. And indeed, I only hit him one time with 16 bombs. I do get some defended ribbons out of it, though. I'm going to duck away. There's another smoke there, that's a Neptune. However, given I know his actual relative position, I'm gonna try to hit him again. We'll go in blind, see if we can't get any bomb strikes. We're a bit off, as you can see, as we get new information. Coming in close, it's kind of hard to get the looping attacks. Not quite an American HE dive bomber. Maybe we'll get one hit here, but it's more than likely we'll just miss him. Oh, I do straddle him with 3 bombs actually, which is actually a relatively impressive result. Utland is obviously in C. I'm going to focus my efforts on downing this Harugumo during the duration of the booster radar, however. I doubt I'll make it realistically, but might as well try. And as I said, there's the Utland that I suspected was there but could not confirm. And this Harugumo's definitely taking a bit of a beating. So based on his position on minimap, I can make a go on him. Already sent the rockets anyway, and if I'm going to attack something else, I'd prefer different munitions, so I will use an approximation as his smoke fades. So you can see there the terrain from this angle is mostly shielding him from my attack. So as I fly across this way, give it a nice lead up, arm at a fair distance away, let the reticle tighten as much as British rockets will. A little underled to one side, but that's quite alright. Gonna continue to farm my defended ribbons. So far 26,000 damage. Most of it is still Donskoi damage, but note how I'm coming up over this mountain and that moves the reticle up here. So if you're not a carrier, you should be taking advantage of these qualities of carrier rockets to dodge rockets. And if you are a carrier, you should keep in mind that if you approach over high terrain like that, you won't be able to get your strikes off. Which is something I probably should have been paying closer to attention to, but I didn't, and as a result I was not able to finalize that Harugumo kill. Someone does appear to be annoyed at my contributions. That is the Harugumo. Unsurprisingly, I am going to continue to harass him, however. So I'm gonna let these de-arm. Just gonna spot him, really. I was trying to pop my heel, but for some reason it didn't trigger. So I'm gonna force him forward, and then that's gonna give me leeway over here to hit with the torpedo bombers. Gonna take my time, arm the converging torpedoes. See if he's gonna respond by reversing. Doesn't look like it. So I can only squeeze off 2 torpedoes there, but the central torpedo might force him back a little bit. And as long as I'm spotting him, he still has to take damage. And that's damage he doesn't get back, because he doesn't have heal. Does trim me down to my last plane, but that does bring up my my last gasp. So I know approximately where he is. He smokes again. He's really having fun, I'm sure. Well, no point wasting my time on that then. I'm gonna just lead these off. Don't expect these to hit, but if they do, hooray. I'm gonna intercept that Utland over there. And he does die, due to the spotting combined between myself, the radars, and various other factors. Now there's a booster between me and the Utland, but if I spot out the Utland outside of his smoke, he's close to Seattle. So I know I'm not farming damage this game because I'm almost exclusively harassing the destroyers, but I don't have to. My team is already cleaning up the game, so I can snowball the game by killing off the remaining destroyer and allowing my Kikaze to hunt with impunity. Now if he runs back towards this Alsace, which is my anticipation, okay, so he's there. So now my Seattle knows exactly where he is. Let's stray away from Wooster Guy's AA Aura. I want my Seattle to radar, but he's not going to, it doesn't look like. Just Seattle AA, so the Utland appears to have his AA off. I'm gonna do a flyover just to see if he's out of the smoke, and he is indeed out of the smoke. So that's an F3. Oh, almost hit some flak because I was trying to F3. And that extra information gives my teammates the information they need to confidently approach. So even without inflicting damage, I'm inflicting damage. And I do hit another 3k onto him. Gonna hover him for as long as possible. As I fly over, gonna lose another rocket plane before I can even make my pass over. I temporarily dropped a fighter that is gonna get dispatched. Last gas refills my engine boost bar as before. Now I can finally make my actual attack run. British smoke means he's trying to get it back up, but I do dispatch him with 4 rockets. Only 30k damage, but I am doing my best to keep the enemy locked out of the game, as you can see. I'm gonna brute force my way onto that booster from my current position. He's pretty locked in. He's gonna drop an intervening fighter plane. Using my engine boost consumable to reduce the time I spend in here as I approach the booster, who has no choice but to reverse here. Very easy hit. We'll see how fast he accelerates or decelerates. Not actually sure if I'll hit him. Yeah, it looks like I should have led a little more even with the converging pattern. Very close to not hitting all 3 torpedoes. I did tag a fighter on the way somehow. I didn't see the fighter, but it's always the things you don't see that kill you, right? Launched my last torpedo at a fair bit of range, but I don't expect to hit it, and he does indeed dodge it. Launching my level bombers as my GK proceeds to go heal himself. Defensive fire is running, but he does dispatch the booster, which means I get to demonstrate the carpet bombers on another squishy French battleship and hopefully pad my numbers by a little bit. Oh, Hakuryu's close to the Alsace, so I'm gonna attack the Alsace from the front, then curve out towards the Thunderer. I will drop a fighter. Oh, I was gonna drop a fighter, I did hit the T button. But I already used it, of course, so it didn't trigger. Gonna pop my engine cooling consumable just to minimize the time we're here. He does have a fighter from himself, and the CV does also drop him one, leading him by a little bit because I do anticipate that he's gonna retreat. I do hit him for just about 9,000. Fighter is locked, so I cannot make another attack. So instead I'm gonna try and save these planes. I do, I guess, save one, kind of. I'm not sure if that's gonna make it out of the orbit into atmosphere. Not perfect munitions, but given the angles and the targets available, I am going to launch my torpedo bombers. Now, in order to penetrate a Hakuryu fighter screen, I would estimate I need at least 6 planes. 1 to penetrate the tagging self-defense fighter, and if he drops himself a fighter, well, you're gonna need almost a full squadron, except it's a high-tier carrier, so that self-defense squadron has quite a few planes in it by default. Now, ideally, I would attack the Thunderer because he's much squishier of a target and wouldn't kill off all my planes. However, there is an intervening Hakuryu in the way, which I was going to strike, but he does get dispatched. Now only 54,000 damage as you saw there. We did spend this game using our excellent anti-light ship armaments to harass enemy ships. Now the Audacious actually is an excellent damage farmer, though this game might not indicate that. It is in fact my highest average damage tier 10 carrier, I believe, although those stats might not be that accurate. I haven't been playing it as frequently. Audacious is very fun, but definitely a bit less powerful, so when I'm practicing my tier 10 carriers, I tend to practice it quite a bit less. Anyhow, 54,000 damage, only 3 torpedo hits, 11 bomb hits, 4 incaps, 1 actual kill, 2 fires, 10 defender ribbons, 11 spotting ribbons, 44 rocket hits, and 1 plane interdicted by fighter. Nevertheless, we did score 17,000 base experience. Not that impressive, obviously, but we did spend a lot of our time kind of locking up the game for our team rather than actually carrying the weight ourselves. The enemy team kind of folded, as you can see from the 2 kill to 11 kill disparity. So it was a bit hard to make my impact felt as my team kind of mopped up all the opposition. A lot of rocket damage here. I got to show off the rather impressive rockets yet again. And we did get that one good bombing run on the Alsace, where I inflicted just about 10,000 damage with 7 bombs and just a bit of fire damage. We harassed the Harugumo. Now normally the carpet bombers are not that effective versus destroyers, but because the Harugumo is such a large destroyer, we were able to actually hit him a couple of times for some good damage. But overall, use the rockets or the torpedoes for destroyers, not the carpet bombs. Not ideally suited. Of course, if you are saturating an area covered in smoke, where you kind of have a pretty good idea of where the destroyer is, it can be effective, as it was in this case. Anyhow, that was a win and a loss in the Audacious. You kind of get a feel for what it's capable of doing, what it's not capable of doing. I was a bit rusty in the first game. You saw I missed a lot of torpedoes, which I probably should have hit. Even in this game, I wasn't really sure I was going to quite get a nice hit on that booster over there. The 40-knot Audacious British torpedoes are quite a bit harder to land than the Hakuryu's 55-knot speed demons. And the carpet bombers are kind of hit or miss, but I'm not fantastic at hitting them, I would say. Still definitely can be very rewarding, especially when you hit a thinly armored battleship such as the Republic in the first game, or the Alsace in the second game, sorry. Anyway, module-wise, I'm running pretty standard modules, pretty much the same as my Hakuryu, so plane health, and then servicing time, torpedo health. But I'm running attack aircraft modification module just because of the quick aiming or quick arming character of the torpedo bombers. Because they arm so quickly, you don't have as many situations where you want to arm outside of, or like at 8 or 7 kilometers, well outside of AA range, and then get nice converging or nice tight spread. Since the British torpedoes converge so quickly, you can just do it inside the AA bubble, and usually it doesn't cause you too many problems. So I just take some attack time to get some particularly long distance rocket attacks. As you saw, the British rockets are extremely potent. And of course the first 2 modules are pretty much just, there's only one choice. Now if I go over to my captain, British CV captain is slightly different from your standard midway or Hakuryu captain. So again, you take your core 9 skills, and then you take plane speed, and you take your choice of your 1-pointers that are remaining. Between engine boost and last gasp, I prefer last gasp, oftentimes with British carriers due to the low-ish reserves, only 9 planes per squadron means that you get 1.5 squadrons in terms of deck space, so you get either 13 or 14 planes, I believe, of each type. Oh, 16. Do you see a buff in numbers? Well, regardless. 16 planes, so you do shorten just to but the regen time's kind of bad, 84 seconds. So I do prefer last gasp because you do squad shorten a lot, and you do actually go down to your last squadron quite a bit. unlike with the Hakuryu's enormous torpedo bomber squadron of 12, where you'd have to make 4 or 5 attacks to really get benefit out of Last Gasp. So Last Gasp is pretty strong here, probably a fair bit stronger than Engine Boost in my opinion. And then you take Demolition Expert. This of course helps both your rockets and bombs. It only gives plus 1% fire chance to rockets, but remember the Audacious launches 42 rockets, so it's kind of like an effective 42% fire chance increase. Of course, the math realistically doesn't quite work out that way, but it is a rather significant increase in fire chance due to the amount of munitions you drop. Same thing goes for the plus 5% per bomb. It's already 41% per bomb, so it only goes from 41 to 46%, but it's 16 bombs, and usually you connect between, say, 3 to 8 on an ideally sized target. So Demolition Expert actually ends up being really good here. And of course, Concealment Expert to bring the Audacious's atrocious detection down. Anyhow, some kind of mediocre games in the Audacious, a win and a loss. But it would be disingenuous of me to only record the highlight games. So oftentimes you will get games like that, but for every few games you get like this, where it's kind of like steamrolling either way. When you get those nail-biter clench, or nail-biting heart-clenching games, the Audacious can and does perform. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap up this re-review here, and if I get a highlight game in the near future, perhaps I'll post that up as well in addition to this. But since these two games are fairly representative of what the Audacious can do, we'll stick with these ones. Hope you enjoyed. Cheers.